Welcome to another episode of Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
I'm Shawn DeWeird.
And for those just tuning in, and maybe you've never heard the show before, you're passing by, we are the show that talks about computers,
technology,
and the internet, pretty much everything else around that. And it's funny, Shawn, because I was thinking today, Justin, we knew was going to be out. Matter of fact, Justin's picking up something today, right?
Yeah, and we're not going to spoil it. We're going to let him drop the bomb next week.
All right. So next week he'll tell us about what he picked up. Hopefully,
I know. He is excited about it.
He is. Hopefully, he'll be really happy about it.
I hope so.
Give him a week with it. Let's see if he's still going to be just as happy and as excited about it next week.
Yeah. So I missed out last week because I was on vacation.
Right. Now, where did you end up going?
So my wife's family has some cabins in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan on a lake.
Nice.
So we spent 9 days in cabins on the lake.
How does somebody that likes technology get away for 9 days? I mean, are you pretty much not using technology when you're out there in the wilderness?
So it's actually kind of interesting because previously in previous years they haven't had internet, but they have Starlink this year.
Oh, nice. So you're
So
to test it out.
They had 2 Starlink receivers,
right?
One on their main building and one on one of the out cabins.
Cool.
Because previously they only had HughesNet, which is satellite internet, and the latency is atrocious, right?
Yeah,
you can't do anything but literally get text messages or Wi-Fi messages and check your email.
There was a time when that service was like, that was great. Because
rural America, that's all you could get, right? Was HughesNet satellite internet, or something like SyncWave, or a microwave based repeater, wireless repeater network, internet network, right?
Like they have it here. They have Simply Bits, and then there's some other companies as well.
I mean, there are companies that do microwave transmission. You just have to have an antenna that points to a receiver, and it's microwave, and it works out, right? But so I saw it. I was like, I kept thinking, I was like, man, they should have Starlink. That'd be great. We could have internet. And we pulled in, and there it was. They had installed Starlink. So I was pretty happy about that. So I was able to actually, if I wanted to, stream videos or do stuff, and it was pretty good. Except when the 40 other people from Kansas family that were there were also trying to do the same thing.
I was going to say, so they get a Starlink in one building. Does everybody just like
converge? Well, so, it's like a lot of her family has younger kids, 8, 9 years old. So when they're want to go to bed, or they, their routine is they stream something or they watch Netflix, or right. So a lot of the times the families are good about not doing the internet. And so that's been great. Right. Yeah. So I didn't connect to the internet hardly at all.
Wow.
Maybe just to check my email at night and browse Reddit for a little bit before I went to sleep. But in the past, I hadn't been able to do that. So it was a little weird to be able to do that. But for the most part, my phone stayed in the cabin and was just there. I didn't take it out. I didn't have it on me. So that was great. But, for me, a trip like this is good because we're in the Upper Peninsula. There's no light pollution. I was able to get some killer Milky Way shots. Some northern lights came out. So I did a couple time lapses. I had my ham radio up there, so I did some ham radio stuff, which was cool. There's not a whole lot going on in the UP, so I didn't even really talk to anybody, but I was able to hit a couple repeaters and at least know that I was talking to the repeaters, but nobody talked back. So, and then I used we're going to talk about another product from this company later in the show, but I have my Wyze outdoor camera.
Right. That's WYZE.
Yeah. Wyze.com. And so I set that up and had it take a picture every 5 minutes, set it up with the solar panel, and let it run all week.
Now, what was it of? The campground, or were you doing the skies?
So it was pointing towards the lake, so you could see a little bit of the sky, you can see the sun. So it's 7 days of just, it ran the whole time.
Right.
But I had to manage it a little bit because that solar panel is, when you're doing a picture every 5 minutes, it kind of eats the battery a little bit.
Right.
So I had to tend it a little bit. I had to put a charge. I had to, overnight I would let it run with a solar powered battery, a 10,000 amp hour battery,
right?
Or whatever it is, milliamp hours, right? 10,000 milliamp hours that has solar panels on it. So it would drain the battery and then help sustain the battery a little bit with the sun. But I would put that on overnight, so it would drain the battery, and then in the morning it would start to charge again.
Good.
The sun would come up. So I was able to keep the battery going the whole time, but I just had to manage it a little bit. So I did that, and I'll send that to the blog so you guys can check that out, because it's cool. The quality's okay for a time lapse. You see time going by, and it's pretty good. And then what I did bring was Max is at the point where he likes to watch a little bit of YouTube, or he likes to watch a little bit of a movie. Like when he's winding down, he'll sit next to you on the couch and he'll watch a show with you. So I brought my Raspberry Pi, my iPad, and my little Wi-Fi router.
And for anybody listening that is lost in tech, Raspberry Pi is not something he would eat.
Right. I mean, there was plenty of pie to be had at the lake, but
perfect.
The Raspberry Pi is a mini computer that runs Raspbian, which is a distribution of Linux. And I set it up with Emby, which is a media player like Plex.
Mm-hmm.
So I could watch the media that I have on my external hard drive on my iPad.
Oh, cool.
So I was able to play some movies for him so that he could watch. And it helped when he was fussy or it was overnight and it was hot and he woke up. There were a couple nights where he would wake up and he didn't want to go back to sleep. So I would just open that up, go to the movies, find a cartoon or a movie that I have on there and play it for him. And he would just kind of zone out and fall back asleep.
So now, how would you stream from the Raspberry Pi to the iPad? Is that a direct connection or
so
that?
I have it connected to a TP-Link micro wireless router. It's only about 2-inch by 2-inch square.
Right.
It's got one Ethernet port on it. So you can put it into a LAN. So I plug the Raspberry Pi into the Ethernet port of the Binny router, and then I can see it from the Raspberry Pi. I can see it. I can connect the iPad to that TP-Link router, and then I can see the server and stream the movies.
That is great. So when
then I can stream it. Yeah. Then I can turn my phone on. So if Caitlin wanted to watch something, she could stream it. Now it's a Raspberry Pi, so it's not super powerful, right? So you're not going to get 5-6 streams going at a time,
right? But
it's good enough for 1 or 2 streams at 720p, which is good enough, right? So that works out. So if you have listened to the show for a long period of time, I built this when we got our camper back in 2020 during COVID. I made a little project for myself. I've just continued to use it, and I just knocked over my radio when it's flying in my arms. And it's just kind of developed, right? I started with Plex. Plex doesn't like external drives in Linux.
Oh,
it had to be mounted in the same USB port, and it had to be. Plex was a pain in the butt, and it wanted you to always log in. And when you're in locations where you just want to stream the movies that are on the content and not log in, you can't log in because you can't authenticate to the web server.
Right.
So Emby takes that part out of it. And there's other great media players also. Jellyfin, a couple other ones that are out there.
The only one I know of is Plex. I mean, I've got Plex, and
Plex, Emby, Jellyfin, a couple other ones. But Emby was I tested a bunch, right? And Emby was the one that just seemed to work the best.
How do you spell it? Is it just
EMBY?
EMBY. All right. I want to look into that. And you put that and stream your content.
Yeah. So I just had the iPad, and I just connected it. Now, this was a good lesson for me.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do it on my phone.
Right.
But I didn't update the Raspberry Pi or the server on the Raspberry Pi. So the app version on my phone had been updated.
Yeah.
So it would not connect to the server because it said you need to update the server to meet the new security requirements for the app.
And to update the server, you have to connect to the net.
Correct, which I didn't have.
Right.
Because I can't connect the Raspberry Pi to the wireless because I didn't have a screen or a mouse or a keyboard. So, and I can't connect to it via VNC via wireless because I need the wireless to connect to the internet.
Oh boy.
So I was stuck.
In a pickle. Right? Yeah.
So then I thought, well, I haven't updated the iPad in a long time.
Yeah.
So the version of the app on the iPad was old enough that it still worked with the server. So I was I was able to do it.
Good to go. Good.
But I was a little frustrated at first. So yeah. So I did some time lapses with my cameras, which I also had forgot the power cords for my battery charger for my cameras. So I had to come up with a solution for that, which was the box fan we had in our cabin had you've got the AC plug goes into the wall, right, and then the other end goes into the battery charger. It's got the 2 prongs. That's usually 2 rounded little, everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The ones out of the box fan were square. So I took my flush cutters that I have and trimmed around the edges.
You did not.
To make them rounded, and it fit, and it worked.
Perfect.
So I am MacGyvering. I was really frustrated because I have a 12-volt battery backup for my D7000 battery grip, so I can plug it into a 12-volt source, and it'll run consistently.
Right.
Via power. For whatever reason, that was saying whenever I plugged it in, it said voltage too low, and it wouldn't run to turn the camera on. So I was frustrated about that. Then I realized I didn't have the battery charge, the cord for the battery charger, so I had to do that. Ended up working out, but see, what other tech did I take with us?
So, and this is just to be able to watch your content on your iPad. So you're not connecting to the net, you're connecting to local, which I think that's a phenomenal idea. I really love that. And if you can, get me the link for the TP link, then maybe I could put it up there. People could want to know how to do this.
I could just write up a little thing about how I did it. Right here's the Raspberry Pi, a 32 gig memory card for the Raspberry Pi, Raspbian. You download emby, connect it to the Wi-Fi, connect the USB drive. You point emby to the drive where all your movies are.
Yeah,
and you're winning.
I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about Linux and Raspberry Pi. He told me, he says, I'm terrified of Raspberry Pi. I've worked in a Windows world his pretty much entire computer career, and he feels like it's daunting, like it's a whole new world, that it would be even more to try and learn that to get a Raspberry Pi set up. And I told him I think they're pretty simple.
Yeah, so if you go to the Raspberry Pi website, you can just download their version of OS, Raspbian, and it's very user intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve for Linux, but everybody thinks like, ooh, hackers, I have to know code and I have to know DOS commands or Linux commands and kernel commands and know how to make directories. And no, you don't, right? There are GUIs. You're not running command line Linux here, right?
Right. GUI is graphical user interface.
Right. So Windows is a GUI, right? Graphical user interface. You click stuff, you click around, you do stuff, right? You're not talking to the computer in computer language.
Right.
So there are very user-friendly versions of Linux. Ubuntu is good. Mm-hmm. There's another one that I enjoyed playing around with, which was called Elementary, which was fun to use.
Right.
I mean, there's so many distributions of Linux out there. It's crazy.
Ubuntu is the one that I've kind of played with. I have a Raspberry Pi keyboard, which is basically it's cool. It's a keyboard, and it has basically the Raspberry Pi system within the keyboard. It's cool. It looks like a mini keyboard. I can plug it into a monitor, via HDMI, I think it is, or USB.
And it has a trackpad on
it. No, it does not. It does not.
They make a version with it that has a trackpad also, so you could have just that, so you don't have to lug around a keyboard and a mouse.
Right. Yeah. But it's and I've yet to fire that one up. We took a look at it, and it was like, and then put it aside.
Yeah, they're fun, right? So
it's inexpensive, right? I mean, the Raspberry Pi is pretty much inexpensive.
It is. They're $50-$60. During COVID, they became insanely popular. for people that were working on projects, people that were doing automation, and they became very, very hard to find.
Yeah.
And with supply chain issues, they didn't revamp. So people were paying $150, $200 for a 3rd gen Raspberry Pi, right? Or, they came out with the micro ones, and some other, they were very popular for a long time and they were hard to find. Right. And when they came into stock, they went down just as fast. So, but Raspberry Pis get used for all sorts of stuff. And,
well, Justin has his Pi hole.
Yep. Justin has it running Pi hole. And that just sucks all the ads into a fake DNS on his computer, on his Raspberry Pi, so he doesn't get ads.
Yeah.
I ran that on my Synology for a little while, but then with MetroNet, because I don't have an out-facing IP address, I can't use it. It starts screwing stuff up. Yeah. I can't get to websites and stuff like that, so I got rid of it. So I get ads again, but it was great when I had it.
Yeah.
So what other technology did I take with me?
Yeah.
I had my little solar panel, which is cool.
Yeah. Can you talk about that for a second? Because there are people that don't know that you can get a solar panel for your outdoor camera, or maybe you need it for another type device. I see most of the applications have been used with cameras. I'm trying to remember the name of the manufacturer that we looked at.
Yeah, I'm going to grab it. So just keep talking.
I think the one I looked at is Reolink, and it's a great camera, a phenomenal camera, battery powered camera. The quality on it was really good, and I love it because I can move it around. There was a situation where the neighbor had come over to the house, and they asked if we had mice, and in the house they had a situation where they had mice in their attic, and apparently it was quite an abundance of mice, because with mice, once they get in, they pretty much set up shop and they will replicate pretty fast. As I talked with Ryan Bennett from Bill's Home Service recently about that, and mice are very quick. And what I ended up doing is I don't think so. I went up into the attic and I took a look, didn't see anything, but what you don't see is what, can be an indication. So I went ahead and I just popped the Reolink camera up there, put it on there, and it was motion activated, has night vision. And of course it, battery powered, and just left it up there, and got no notifications, but I would occasionally log in just to look to see if anything was changed, anything was moved, nothing. So I think we basically pretty much discovered we did not have a mouse problem. And I love it for that. And there's so many different applications for it. But this also, when I bought it with a solar panel, and I haven't hooked it up outside. I ended up using the LaView, which screws into a light socket, which is great. The only problem is Gloria loves umbrellas. So she puts umbrellas all over the backyard, and I'll log into the camera to see what's going on in the backyard. I can't see a darn thing because the umbrellas were left up all night. So, to be able to put maybe the Reolink higher and then put a solar panel in it means I don't have to climb up there and change the battery out at all. I shouldn't have to do that at all with solar panel, should I?
You shouldn't. It just depends on how much amperage how much watt power your
the camera's taking.
Solar panel can put out, right? So I think the draw on these, does it say? It says it, so it draws 5 volts at 1.5 amps, right?
All right.
So that's
on the Y.
That's 5.5 watts or something, right?
Right.
So the solar panel, which I have in my hand if you're watching the stream, so it's only about 7 inches by 5 inches or something like that.
Okay.
And it's just a solar panel, looks like a normal solar panel, and it outputs 2.5 watts. So 5 volts, 2.5 watts. So a half amp. And it can output a half an amp.
Right.
So it's going to keep the camera basically going to trickle charge the camera. It's going to so depending on your settings on your camera, if you have it set to take a picture every minute, picture every 20 minutes, whatever, it depends on how you have it set up, how long it will drain the battery. So like I said, I supplemented this during the day, overnight, a battery pack that had a solar panel also. So a separate little battery pack I have with a solar panel on it. So that overnight it would charge from the battery pack. And then in the morning it would start picking up the sun and charging it that way. And then I would just go back to this during the day and I charge the other one in the cabin and back and forth.
Now, are solar panels expensive? I think I remember ours was a kit, so I don't remember the supplemental cost on it. But
I don't remember what this cost. I could look it up on Wise, and I'll get back to you on that one.
I think I have a feeling that they're maybe around $40-$50 for one to power like a Wise cam.
So this one that I have from Wise is $24.99.
Oh, it's even better, $24. Now, and again, the benefit for this too, if you do want to put a security camera higher, which is actually recommended, because let's face it, if somebody was to get onto your property, they see your camera, they just take it if they can reach it. So you want to put it out of reach, maybe you don't store ladders nearby, and then have it with the solar so you don't have to climb up there all the time. I remember when cameras started to become really, really popular, and Belkin had and they still do, they still have a camera system that they put out. And my son, I gave it to him for the house in California, and he would just go nuts because he'd have to climb up there on the ladder, take it down, and charge the battery. It didn't have a rechargeable system. So when we were talking recently, I told him, I said, did you ever replace the security system there? He's like, no. And I'm thinking, go with solar. It's that way you don't have to climb up, or if you don't want to wire it, do any wiring like I had to do with the Nest system that I have here. That's a good way to do it. Just mount it high and mount it with solar.
Yeah, I don't ever mount this one outside. I've used it just for traveling. Like I take it with me and I put it in travel mode. You can put the Wise Cam in travel mode, which means you can connect to it via its own little Wi-Fi.
Right.
So you can connect to it without having internet. But again, if you're not logged in to the Wise app, without a web authentication, you can't log in to see your cameras.
Right.
So I wrote to Wise when I got back and said, look, please, for the love of God, give me an offline mode so I can log into the app, at least have the app available offline.
Right.
So I can get to the camera, because I can connect. I can connect to the Wi-Fi on the camera when it's in travel mode. But if I can't log into the app to see it, what good does it do me if I'm traveling with it?
Did you get any response from them, or it was just
no? I haven't. This was just Monday. So
right.
So, but it was very frustrating because I had to try to use the crappy HughesNet before I realized they had Starlink set up to at least log into the app.
Okay, so here you are. You haven't used Starlink yet. You're there. Did you run a speed test?
I did not run a speed test.
Shawn, come on.
I didn't think about it. I did think about it, but then the times I was on my phone, I didn't think to run a speed test.
Right.
I saw Starlink. I was like, ooh, I should run a speed test. And then I didn't.
Right.
So I don't know what the speeds were.
But you could tell it was better than Hughes, right?
But I was when Max, when I couldn't sleep because Max had kept me up, like I was able to stream Netflix. So I know it's at least decent, right? I know they say it's something like you can get up to 60 or 70 meg down on Starlink based on where you are and your, cloud cover and vegetation cover and humidity and moisture. All that stuff affects satellite reception. So, but
boy, I was
didn't
disappointed. A friend of mine recently, and when it comes to internet speeds, you could pay through the nose for your internet if you want to do that. I mean, depending on what you get. Now, I just recently discovered when I was looking at my bill from my provider that I'm paying for a higher tier, which I knew. But I've been with the company for 12, 13 years, maybe even longer. They moved me into a different tier so I'm paying extra for nothing, because honestly, I'm paying for this extra, pro service, which I'm getting anyways with this tier that they moved me into. They won't tell you that. So you really got to take the time. And sometimes it can be difficult talking to some of these cable providers as to what you get out of it. You got to go in. I don't even know if going in is the solution, because sometimes it depends on the clerk you're going to get. Sometimes it's better. And don't do it. They want you to do it yourself on the internet. Talk to somebody. Actually, so what is it that I'm getting for this?
Yeah. So, we talked about this a couple episodes ago, right? I upgraded to Metronet.
Right.
Metronet came through our neighborhood. They actually came through the neighborhood to the north of us first, but then they started putting little flyers in our neighborhood saying, sign up for Metronet and get 2 years of high-speed fiber for $69.99 or whatever it was.
Oh.
I signed up and got it, and all I wanted was for Xfinity to tell me if they could match the speeds.
Right.
So, do you think I could get a hold of a single it was impossible.
It's really difficult
to find out, hey, can Xfinity match the uploads and download speeds of Metronet?
Mm-hmm.
And you talk to the little AI chatbot, and it just kicks you back. It kicks you to articles.
Right.
So self-service articles. I don't want self-service articles. I want a human being to tell me if Xfinity can match these speeds.
Mm-hmm.
I tried. I wrote little emails. I texted them through the app. I emailed through the app. Didn't hear a peep.
Wow.
And then it took me an hour and a half to cancel my Xfinity because I couldn't get a hold of a person.
Oh, man.
Like, just trying to call and cancel my Xfinity was a nightmare. And I've been so happy with Metronet. I've had 2 service disruptions.
Right.
One, the modem itself failed like 2 or 3 days after I bought it. So they had to come and replace the modem. The second time,
your own?
Well, so they have the internal modem.
Right.
Connect to your router.
Yeah, I always recommend buying your own, but yeah.
Well, for fiber, they don't really have ones that you can buy. Yeah, so because it's coming straight. So it goes to the junction box, and from the junction box to the modem, it's single mode fiber.
So that's going to be different, yeah.
It's going to be different. And if you want the higher tiers, the higher, because they offer 2 and 5 gig here in my area now. I could get 5 gig internet if I want.
Wow.
But I don't need it. 1 gig has been plenty. Like, I don't need 5 gig.
Right.
But you have to get a modem that can handle that level of bandwidth.
And that's one that they're going to provide. Yeah.
And there's 0 point in getting anything over 1 gig.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're running a million machines.
Right.
Because if you're a single household user and you have your computer plugged into the internet, your internet connection is 1 gig.
Right.
It's the interface is 1 gig. So
yeah,
it's pointless to go beyond that unless you have 5 million devices and you're doing whatever. But the other service disruption I had with Metronet was they installed my neighbor's internet and they unplugged me and flipped it. So they basically flipped us.
No. So your neighbor is getting your speed.
Well, the neighbors, it didn't work because it was
okay,
trying to talk to the neighbors. Like, they either unplugged me or they flip-flopped me or something. So I didn't have internet. And then Metronet itself had a weird DNS resolving issue.
Right.
So it wasn't always resolving all of the DNS requests.
Right.
So I could go to Outlook and check my email, but if I tried to go to Netflix, it just would spin and not go anywhere. But I could get to Netflix on my phone. I could get to Netflix.
So in hindsight, though, we got to take a break. But when you look at it for what you were paying with Xfinity to what you are paying now with Metro, are you saving or are you spending a little more money, but with the understanding of what speed you're getting?
Saving by quite a bit.
Really? Good.
$75 to, I mean, not quite a bit, but I'm just saving a little bit of money.
Right.
But I'm also on the introductory 2-year whatever because I signed up early and prepaid and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think after a year, it goes up to like $89.
Do you miss anything about Xfinity? Are they still your cable provider?
I don't have cable.
So you don't have cable?
No.
Everything.
So I have Metronet.
Right. So everything you do is all internet driven. Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, Peacock, whatever.
YouTube TV. It's all,
do they give you any of that as part of it?
No.
All right. So then you have to watch your costs on that too.
But
Xfinity is doing something right now with Peacock. Whereas if you got Xfinity, you had Peacock, and now they're going to start charging for Peacock for Peacock Pro or whatever.
There's so many different
crazy.
streaming apps, whatever. But
all right, we got to take a break. We come back. We'll talk more. You're going to tell us about the latest from Wyze and why this is actually a good idea if somebody's thinking about installing an outdoor camera. I'm Andy Taylor.
I'm Shawn and Andy. You can find us on the web at techtalkradio.com.
We'll be right back.
So everybody knows that I love Wyze cameras, and Andy and Justin joke that I'm the Wyze guy. And it felt like for a period of time that Wyze was dropping new products consistently once a week, once a month. It just felt like crazy.
You want to talk about, okay, so the products that they have Wyze.
Oh my gosh, they have so much. They have cameras, smart home stuff, security.
Like they have a Wyze thermostat, don't they?
Yes, which I have, and it's great.
Right.
Gaming headset, a scale, noise canceling headphones, which I have and I love. Earbuds with noise canceling, which I have and I love. And they have some other stuff. They have a gun safe. Don't buy it. The lock picking lawyer broke into it immediately. The gun safe. There are some things that it's like, why did they do that?
Wow. I know they have vacuum. They have vacuum, right?
They have an air purifier. They have LED light strips. They've got a mesh router. I'm not buying a router for internet from Wyze. Like I'm buying from a reputable security, like a not doing that.
Yeah. Like then the Orbi that we looked at was amazing.
Yeah. Some cameras, floodlight, smart plugs. They have a vacuum. They have an air purifier, a little RC car.
They're also manufacturing product for Roku. So if you see the Roku camera, the Roku ribbon, that's basically Wyze products that they have branded.
Yeah. So they've got some cool stuff, some outdoor plug. It's kind of like a whole home smart device company.
All right.
And so they announced a camera about 2 weeks ago, which is the V3, the version 3, which is their standard camera. You can now get it in blue, which is cool.
Okay.
I like blue. I should get it, right? If you look at my background, it's blue. But they just announced, I think today of the recording of the show, the Wyze Battery Camera Pro. And they're saying it's weatherproof, wire freedom for all.
Now, don't most of their, like the V2, I think I have, isn't that a camera? That's a battery camera.
Yeah, so that's their outdoor camera. They have the outdoor V1, the outdoor V2. So this is their outdoor V3, essentially.
Okay.
Except you don't need the bridge to connect the outdoor camera.
But the bridge is like almost a little hub.
A little hub that you have to connect the outdoor cameras, which I have, which was cool and it made sense and it worked. But this one is a rechargeable. You can take the battery out. So it's got a removable battery. So you can put in a second battery while you recharge the first one. The charger is sold separately, which I thought was a little weird.
Oh.
It works with the same solar panel. So if you have the solar panel with the V2 or the V1 outdoor camera, you can use that same solar panel. So it's the micro USB plug. It records in 2K. So
good quality.
It's good quality. If you have the V3 Pro or the Wyze OG, right, it's the same quality as those. It's dual band Wi-Fi, so it supports 2.4 gig or 5 gig.
Oh, that's nice.
So you can get the faster speeds, so you get a little bit better quality. And it's got integrated spotlight, so it can turn the light on. It's got color night vision. It looks pretty cool. Let's see, whatever. It's got the battery pack is a 6,200 milliamp hour battery.
Now you said, did I hear you right that you can actually remove the battery and put another? Yes,
yeah. So it's got a
wow
rubber gasket sealed battery compartment, so you can pop it out, drop in another battery, plug it back in, and keep going. So if you have it set up, and every 2 weeks or something, or however long it lasts, right? So it's cool. I don't know if I'm going to spend the $95.
It's kind of high for Wyze.
So for a camera with one battery, $93.99 is what the website says.
Is that with the solar panel though?
No.
Oh,
one camera, one battery, solar panel, $118. So that's actually not a bad deal.
Yeah.
You can buy a 3-pack, so 3 cameras, 3 batteries for $269.99.
Okay.
So what's cool about this is if you have the Cam Plus Pro,
right,
and you have the unlimited subscription, you just buy the cameras and you add them to your Cam Plus
right.
Pro subscription, which I do because I think I have 7 Wise cameras that I have all with Cam Plus, and it's $99 for the year instead of X number of dollars per camera per year per month, whatever.
Yeah, it could get expensive when you start adding up. I pay 60 for the View, and then I've got the Nest, which I also pay 60. But that's however, anytime you add a Nest camera or device to your system, it's covered under that $60.
Yep. So it looks cool. And if I didn't have all the cameras I need to cover my house and the outdoor camera, which I'm really happy with, like I would buy it. Like if I was just getting into this, I would buy the 3-pack.
That's a good deal, yeah.
Because you can plug it in with a solar panel, which also means you should be able to power it locally and keep it running all the time.
I was going to say, with that, you'd never have to remove that battery. So again, put it mounted high and not have to worry about that.
Yeah, if you had the solar panel, or if you had a plug, like if you have your Christmas light plugs that, some houses, people run wires up to plug their Christmas lights in, you could plug it in and leave it in permanently. So it's cool. You can just go to wise.com. It's called the Wise Battery Cam Pro.
I'm wondering though how many people are going to say, wait a minute, Wise, why because normally the price point for these cameras, like I have the Pan 2, which I love. You can pan, tilt the camera, the whole bit. It's an indoor camera. And I think honestly, I spent $40 on it, maybe $45. And
yeah, I mean, it's a jump in quality. You're getting a couple new motion detection stuff. It's got some of the AI stuff in it. It's got the rechargeable battery. It's got, works with the solar panel. It works with Alexa, Google Assistant, and IFTTT. So you can do a lot with it, right? So I don't see why somebody wouldn't spend $93 on this. Like I said, I'm set up in my house where I've got my things that I like. I'm not going to get this because I don't need it.
So when Wise sells a television, are you going to buy one?
No. There are some Wise things I don't have, but I do have a Wise t-shirt and Wise socks.
Yeah, the fact that you have Wise socks would make me think you might.
Ooh, they have a hat. I didn't know they had a hat.
You should have seen his face. He was very happy.
Merchandise. Hold on. They have Wise. They have a hoodie.
WYZ.ce.com. That's the website. All right. Speaking of TVs, I got to tell you about a new television that is been announced. Samsung is putting that out, and everybody has their favorite brand, whether it be LG or Sony. There's some others that are out there, but Samsung has announced their 98-inch class QLED 4K Q80C. Now think about this. 55-inch seems to be the norm. What size television do you have, Shawn?
65.
All right, we got a 55, and we're pleased with that. But with 55, 65, maybe the norm. 70 seemed like that was big. 98-inch television. Now remember, you measure that diagonally, but this is going to be going for about $8,000. And they're doing pre-orders. They'll take that off about $1,000 off and include what they call white glove installation. They have experts that will come out and actually install this perfectly on your wall or wherever you want it to be installed. But here's something that I want to stress. If you're going to spend the money on a 98-inch television at $8,000, and I know some people are going, no, I'm not going to spend that money, Andy. I'm not doing that. Would you, Shawn, want 98-inch?
No, because I have a 140-inch screen just off to my right with a 4K projector on it.
And how much was that 4K projector around about?
$799.
So that's a percentage of that cost, major percentage of that cost. So and it's a good one. I know Samsung has some pretty good projectors too, but if somebody wants to have this and say they've got it, please, especially as we've seen in the last week, I had a friend who listens to the station who called me and told me that they took a hit, a lightning hit, and it fried a couple of televisions. So if you're gonna do it, make sure you get the best rated. Seriously, do some research. The best rated, uninterruptible power supply, jeweled, protected. Don't plug it into, I'm not knocking Walmart, but a Walmart extension cord. You don't want
Amazon Basics.
or basics from Amazon extension cords. You're going to spend the money on it, and it can get a little pricey. I mean, but you're going to get that protection. Plus, you usually, in most cases, will get a warranty based on that device you're buying, whether it's from APC or any of the other companies. It'll be warranted so that if you did take a power surge and it did fry the electronics, you might have a claim that you could file to get some of that money recouped, because nothing worse than spending all that money and losing something like that. That would not be good.
No, yeah. I mean, I've been in situations, not in my house, but at our tower sites when I worked in television, where we lost some equipment from lightning strikes.
And you had good equipment there. Good.
Yeah, lightning arresting equipment and all sorts of stuff, but it still finds a way to, and it doesn't just screw up it can screw up hard drives, it can screw up RAM, it can still be powered on, but internally something can get screwed up, and you still lightning does weird things.
Do you have a preference when it comes to some of the stuff, APC, and you've got Trip Light, and you've got others? I mean, is there one preference? I've had pretty good luck with APC.
I have 2 APC battery backups.
Right.
One for my Synology, and one for my router and modem.
And you do have to change them out once in a while too.
You do. It's like any other battery, right? It loses charge over time. The chemical reaction gets weaker, but for the most part, if you leave them plugged in, they're going to cycle themselves, and they'll take care of themselves. But
right.
If you do, it's very easy to just open them up. They're just 2 prongs. You slide the battery out, slide a new one in.
Yeah, you could buy these batteries plus, I believe they have those here. I don't know if they have them there, but where you're at, Shawn. But Battery Plus, they sell the replacement batteries. You just tell them what type of device you have, and actually on the whether it be a Trip Light or APC, it'll say right there what the replaceable battery is, and it's it's probably recommended. You can also do a battery check on it, and it will give you kind of the results of hey, your cycle is you definitely want to change this.
Now, they're smart enough to, it'll tell you how many times you lost power, how much, some of the newer ones can tell you what the amp draw is. If you're out of power, it'll tell you based on your current amp draw, it's going to last this long. So you can kind of tailor it to, okay, maybe I should start shutting stuff off.
Yeah.
Because if you're running on battery, it's not going to last very long.
All right.
It's not designed to take you long term. It's designed to get you over to a generator backup or get stuff turned off properly.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we've got more to talk about here on Tech Talk Radio. I got a chance to experience a brand new printer for anybody that has been thinking about, kids going back to school, or maybe, your printer is just on the fritz. We talked a little bit about laser versus, inkjet printing last week, but I'll tell you my thoughts on this printer that I took a look at coming up with Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
I'm Shawn and Andy. Find us on Facebook at Tech Talkers.
A lot of us may use laser jets for printing. And, when it comes to printing, if you're doing a lot of text, they're great. They're pretty dependable when you need them. They're just as easy to hook up to wireless. Sometimes that's the biggest complaint, is hooking up to a wireless situation with them. And there's the manufacturers all, put out some pretty good laser jets, whether it be HP, whether it be Epson, whether it be Brother, to get the job done. But if you want to have color, and last week Justin talked a little bit about color printing. You got a color laser jet, and he liked it. So I got a chance this past week. Epson sent me over the Echo Tank 2850, and I wasn't sure what to think about it, because I've heard horror stories about people refilling ink in their printers, and what a mess it made and how terrible it was. I'll be honest with you. I was really skeptical, but after I got the printer, I took the time to go through the setup. I got the app, which is the smart panel app that they have that Epson puts out. It's amazing to help you step by step, giving you all the demonstrations on how to get it all set up. It was a piece of cake. Now, this printer is a color inkjet printer that uses refillable inks, and it has a scanner on it as well, so you can make copies. Features Wi-Fi Direct. So what that means is, so I can take my smartphone and print directly to the printer without an internet connection. So, Shawn, if you were out in the wilderness and you had the printer and you had your phone, you could print directly to it if you needed for some reason to print.
In the wilderness, I need to print.
Yes, you might print a picture of a bear. But I mean, you have this capability, and the way it works, it uses Epson 502 ink. And so you get when you buy the printer, you get 4, not cartridges, they're like little bottles, and you'll get cyan, and then you'll get yellow, and then you get black, and then you get red, or the other color that
magenta.
Thank you. That mixes it all up, and it's so super easy. You take the lid off, and it's got a little guide in there, and you just turn the bottle upside down on top of the guide, and you don't have to squeeze it. You don't do anything like that. It just falls out of the bottle into the actual reservoir for that particular ink, and you could see it filling up. Once it's done, it stops. Then you just take the thing off. Nothing spills, no spillage, no leakage at all, and you put it aside. And then you do the other colors. It took about, I want to say, maybe about 30 minutes to do all of the colors, just to get them all done. And then it goes through an initialization process, and then you're good to go. You're ready to print. And it printed color photos on glossy, colored photos on regular paper. But the nice thing about this, and this is the thing, I don't know if you remember, Shawn, when inkjets first started coming out, you had companies like, I won't say Kodak or Lexmark. They'd put out printers, and the price point was amazing. It was $29 or $39. But what happened is you got a limited run of ink, and then you'd have to go to the store and you'd have to buy their ink, and you'd have to buy their ink from them. And generally that ink was a lot more expensive than the printer.
It was like $45.
Yeah, you would find out
black.
You were spending
and
more.
then $100 for color.
Yeah. So you were spending all that money you saved in the printer, you were throwing it out the window on the inks. And unless you got the XLs, or maybe you bought the higher capacity, you generally, if you generally weren't doing great with it. And then the other problem with some printers, if you don't, and we mentioned this last week, you don't print on them often, the heads can dry, and then you got to go through a cleaning process. Sometimes it can render the printer unusable. But
so this is a great thing for HP or Epson. I mean, sorry.
Yeah.
Epson figured it out.
It's a great thing for Epson, right?
Epson took HP's business model, which was atrocious.
No.
Because HP went the route of, we're going to digital copyright our cartridges.
Exactly.
So you can't use them. And then if you don't subscribe to the ink refill, we're just going to shut your ink off. So this is the first time I've seen home, third-party refillables.
Right.
With the needles and you put it in, it makes a mess.
And that's one where they make a mess. And that's what I was telling somebody about it. They said, oh, they're messy. I said, no, not this, not the Epson.
But this is, I would buy a inkjet if I bought one of these. I didn't know this was a thing because there's so much bad publicity about HP and the BS they're pulling with the cartridges, where you can't use third-party cartridges. You can't, if you have the subscription for the ink, like you get X amount of ink a month or every 2 months, and you cancel, well, then they shut your printer off.
Yeah, with this this buddy of mine was telling me he does a subscription one, and I said there's no subscription in this. Although, what you can do, and with the app, the smart panel app is amazing because you can select what you want to do. Just scroll. Oh, I want to print a photo, or I want to print a document. You could do that. You could do it from your computer, but you could have this app on your phone. You could do it right from your phone, but it will show you the ink levels there. But what most people are saying is you get enough ink out of the box for this. And you could see it because the reservoir is a lot bigger than those cartridges you used to get for about 2 years. You're also saving 90% on the cost of the consumables. Whereas to print maybe 50%, maybe 50% color, the rest black text, you're going to spend about 20 cents per page. This has got it down to about a penny a page.
That's great.
You pay more for the printer, though. The printer itself is going to set you back a bit. It's going to be about $250.
But even just looking at their website, right? You've got some ones with less features. The EcoTank ET 2800, $200.
Yeah,
that's about $299 for the 2850, which is the one you're talking about, the all-in-one. But yeah, I mean, it's such a good model for that. I didn't know this was a thing.
The other thing I like about it, Shawn, you have gotten to print something in color, and it has to prime. It has to, it takes a while for all. This is pretty fast. And again, I want to say almost for doing the black text, at least it was almost as fast as popping it out on my LaserJet. And
yeah, so I'd be curious to see what your reaction to is in a year when it's had time to dry out a little bit. You haven't used it for a couple months to print, and you got that one important document that you got to have out in the mail today, and your printer is messed up.
Well, the good recommendation is, and I say for anybody, if you have an inkjet printer, whether it be this or even a LaserJet printer, if you haven't printed in a couple months, make sure you do try and print at least once a month. If not, every 2 weeks, something. Just get some of that ink flowing through there. And if that's the case, if you're not doing it every day, just try and do it like at least, twice a month. Maybe just run something through there just to make sure that's going. You don't have to do a photo, which is going to use a lot more. Photo will use more of the colors, of course, but just to give it a run to make sure that your printer is going to be in top running space. It also doesn't take up too much space. It does have USB connectivity, but the wireless features on it, very easy to set up. I was able to get mine set up in no time. So again, that's the one we looked at was the EcoTank 2850, and you can find more info like you just did on their website. We're going to take a quick break. We come back with more of Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
I'm Shawn DeWeird. Find us on X at
on the X
at Tech Talkers.
If you have a Google account, like a Gmail or Google Photos account that you haven't used in a while, maybe, some people will have two. How many Google accounts do you have, Shawn? That looked like 10.
A bunch. So, I've got my main Gmail.
Right.
I've got Caitlin's got her Gmail.
Right.
We have a Gmail set up for Max.
Good.
I've got a client Gmail that I use for client video stuff.
Right.
I've got a family archive Gmail.
Right.
A family archive Gmail for Caitlin's family.
Wow.
Okay, so
you have a lot.
Yeah, I've got a handful. Yeah.
They get logged into. Do you log into them?
Well, I'm panic logging in right now because you said it. So I've been during the break, I was going, oh crap, what's my password? So,
all right. So here's the deal.
Going through.
Google is going to start again doing this. They're going to delete inactive accounts in December. So if you have a Gmail and sometimes we call them Google accounts, but honestly, if you think about it, it encompasses your Gmail, Google Photos, Google Drive, anything that could be in there. And that could be, a work account, et cetera, that you manage for a business. Maybe you don't log into it all the time. Some people have had one when they were single and they haven't logged in, or when they were married and they haven't logged in. So you might want to just make sure you log into it, send yourself an email, just make sure you're doing something with it, but log into all the aspects of that. So if you have Gmail, make sure you log into Google Photos, Google Drive, if you set that up, and just to make sure that they're all being seen as you being logged into it. And then you could log out of it. And you might want to make that a common practice. This is the second time that Google's done this. Mailbox providers, MSN, which begin, of course, Microsoft, Outlook, Hotmail, Olive Live. I know Yahoo has done this. They've closed accounts. AOL, which is still with people. I know somebody out there still uses AOL.
My AOL, I mean, I tried to log into that. I hadn't logged into it in
but they said you could
a decade.
You could redo it, but it wouldn't have any of your old emails in there.
Right.
Or
So
contacts. So
that, and I was able to get into my Yahoo because I checked that.
All right. So
everybody, but my main email is still my Hotmail.
Panic, log into Google and make sure your account is okay. Now, next week in the show, Shawn, I'm hoping you're gonna be back because you're taking another trip. Are you?
I'm going to Gen Con in Indianapolis. I'm going to a board game and gaming convention this weekend. So,
how cool!
Woohoo!
That's going to be good. Well, you'll be with us on the show next week. You got to talk about the big announcement that we've had this past week from DJI.
Brand new. Yes.
Camera, it's new action camera.
Between now and the next show, they're announcing something.
All right.
It looks like an action camera, and to be honest, their action cameras, I believe, are better than GoPros.
All right. Well, we'll find out more about that next week. That wraps up this week's Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
I'm Shawn DeWeird.
Have yourselves a wonderful week.
See you next week.